Alright, what is going on? It's your boy Lax, and today we have a crazy video. As the title says, we're going to be going over the most insane and the most ridiculous games of Cycle 1 of the official ladder tournament. If you didn't see, I did a stream with Blunder, 3D, and CTC this past Saturday when the cycle was ending, and now Cycle 2 has already begun, so maybe we'll do this again for the current cycle, depending on the replays that I'm able to see. But yeah, basically, we're just going to be looking at some of the most wild replays that happened. And there are some really crazy ones. So I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe. Shouts to all the members. Appreciate you, especially my guy Mel Dogs, coming through with the 3 gifted during the stream. But yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at some of these replays. So the first replay is actually at 1049 rank. So this is Zugu's one of his earliest games in the entire tournament when he was trying to qualify. And his opponent actually has like 1,000 losses and 0 wins. They did that thing where you derank your account by just forfeiting constantly or letting yourself time out constantly and letting yourself accrue a crazy amount of losses. I can show you. As you can see, Diddly Do 245 has an insane 1 win, 203 losses. But yeah, let's get right into the game. Okay, so obviously Diddly's Dude's team does not look very normal. They say good luck, fun have, by the way. They say yay upon getting paralysis, and they're just being the most annoying opponent possible. Gassing up their own Pokemon for hacking. But that's not the crazy part. That part hasn't even happened. Okay, so Superior obviously kind of hard countered by Iron Moth. Forced to switch out into Slowking. Okay. Slowking activate its Quick Claw. Okay, that's abnormal, but you know, you've seen that on Slowbro Galar, so maybe that's fine. Gets the Chili play right, which is pretty impressive. Brings Superior back in, and now Superior outspeeds Iron Moth completely. And this whole time, they're just yapping away. So you know they're the worst kind of opponent to face. Here, they Terra Steel. In order to resist the Kyurem, they get the sub because they're fishing for more pairs now. Valiant comes in presumably to try to encore. Let's see what happens. Yep, Valiant goes for the encore. Serp is locked in. Slowking is brought back in. Let's see what happens now. Activates the Quick Claw Sludge Bomb, and Oko's Valiant says, wow, that was close. Now Mabustiff comes in. Apparently it's a counter to King Gambit. Forces the Terra from King Gambit, presumably because Mabustiff has access to some kind of fighting move. That play rough is doing a lot of damage, so definitely choice ban on the dog. Gets the trick off with Quick Claw. Oh wait, no, that's Zorak. I'm tripping. Ignore what I'm saying. But yeah, gets the trick off with Zoroark. I thought it was Trick Quick Claw for a second, and I was like, what's going on here? And now they're just trying to hacks with Glare and try to win, which they do get. They get the Sludge Bomb instantly. They get the Chili Quick Claw again to dodge Earthquake, which is so unnecessary, by the way, but they just wanted to do that. Now Avila goes for Veil. I didn't actually know Avila learned Veil, but there's some synergy with the Slowking Chili into the Avalugg, I guess. Manages to chew that knockoff. Now Zama comes in, and I think Zama just cleans house now. But yeah, this was a crazy start. This was like day 1 of OLT. I'm ordering this based on the order of it when it happened, because it starts out at lower ranks and then goes to increased ranks. But yeah, I mean, 1 win, 203 losses, and this was the way they won. That is a tough start to the OLT cycle for Zugu. Next up, we have Lang versus Snackadactyl. We actually caught this game on stream, and I thought it was so surprisingly impressive what we saw. Or maybe impressive is not the right word, but turn 1 lead, Ogerpon, Oko's the opposing Ogerpon. I think that makes sense, though. That looks like banded damage based off how much it just did to the Zamazenta. A Zelf comes in, but it turns out it's immune because it's actually Zoroark Hisui, and then outplays the next move by going Incineroar to pivot back into Zoroark. And now you're going to see a Specs Hyper Voice chew that Heavy Slam. Wait, that actually did nothing, by the way. Zoroark might be kind of heavy. Chew the Heavy Slam, Oko the Zama through the sub. brings Ogerpon back in for the Giga Strong Banded Cudgel, which Oko's Tinglu has Tatsugiri in versus Iron Treads, which manages to 2-hit KO Goldango. They're doing the same damage to each other, by the way. Oyumon and Piyumon. Okay, we see the Terra Ghost on the spin. We see the Terra Blast to knock it out. You probably should have Dragon Nest again, but I don't think at this point it's just over. Because Incineroar, the boss, comes in, forces out the Dragonite, brings Zoroark back in, does a nice 68%, honestly. Zoroark Hisui is always a guy that I've liked. It's always been a pretty interesting mod. But now Ogerpon is here to just clean up the day. There's nothing Lane can do, unfortunately, into this Ogerpon. I would have probably just stayed in Cudgel, but I understand wanting to end the game with Incineroar the Baus, so it is what it is. As Elf gets O-code by Terra Blast. Incineroar back in for some reason, and now just clicks Knock and easily choose the low kick. Decides to Parting Shot again because they want the KO with Ogerpon this time, which, you know, didn't make a lot of sense. But I thought that was actually really cool. Like, Ling has a very try-hard, strong, overused team, and this team of primarily extremely low-tier guys was able to somewhat dismantle it with ease. No, in part thanks to RU Ogerpon Teal, by the way. Next up, we have Iron Cork versus Mike. Old Spice Mike, one of the most respected SVOU players on the site, using a very strong, standard-looking team. This game genuinely blew my mind. If you guys know what Flamingo does, maybe you're kind of aware of what's to come, but this game honestly just shocked me. I was like, I did not expect Flamingo to have that Dowg in them, you know? That LAXIMUS sucks. Yeah, LAXIMUS sucks, but it probably doesn't matter in the long run. Slowking in, probably back to score or just chilly to score. Yep. Score back in, getting all those spikes up, which don't look removable unless Cloyster is for whatever reason Rapid Spin, but I feel like that is kind of a waste of Cloyster's potential in a way. Another spike is about to go up. Now Zama is forced in, which is actually a big deal. It loses the defense drop, which could have come into play later. Goes Slowking on the Make It Rain. That's a good play. It's probably Scarf Goldango, but it actually reveals Leftover Nasty Plot. So we're going to see the Chili here. Kyurem comes in, presumably just to Earth Power, maybe force a Terra. And I'm surprised Goldango switched out, because that could have just been a knockout on the Kyurem for free. But that was a free Veil for Ninetales, so I understand for sure. And now Goldango is back in with screens up, but it decides to swap out. Mike is just trying to knock the Goldango lefties and gets the choice spin on Rillaboom, so that's pretty great for him. And defensive Gliscor is able to easily chew up that Grassy Glide and even protect here, but Woodhammer will come out and finish this off anyways. Or not, I lied. Woodhammer actually did not come out. But Mike is able to troll this Rillaboom. Eventually it takes out, he did it, you know, that allowed him to stall out the turns, which is pretty nice. Now Deoxys is in, and you're wondering, look at this game state. 45% minus another 6%, 39% Goldango, 1 HP Ninetales, or actually dead Ninetales. It can't get up anything. Cloyster, that's presumably going to take all the rocks, and then a Flamingo. How could Iron Cork possibly win this game? Well, he expends his Terra. The Terra comes out. Mike decides to keep Deoxys, brings in King Gambit. Ninetales Alola Sect. Is King Gambit just going for a Katal? I think it probably should have Swords Dance, based off what we're about to see. Goes for Katal on a very, very slow Cloyster, probably with a ton of defense investment in HP. Eject Packs into Flamingo, which uses Copycat with White Herb to chew the Iron Head. Clicks Upper Hand on Sucker Punch. And now it just has to click Acrobatics 3 times. But the Zamastel's Terra predicts the Terra with close combat. It knocks it out and says Goob. And you know what? That was a goobening. This Flamingo game was absolutely crazy, and I honestly can't believe it happened. Alright, next up we have Ezra Fan, aka Saw War Nunu, something like that. I think that is what their name is. And they are a notorious staller. They've been featured on my channel quite a few times, actually. I think they're probably ahead of me at this point. I don't use teams that are very good into stall when I'm recording videos, but they've been getting sniped all ladder, and this is one of them, and this is probably the most insane one, because look at how ridiculous this team is. And this is at like 1900s, by the way, on the ladder. So Glamora Terra's instantly trying to snipe the Gliscor, but he doesn't fall for it. He's scouting. He's scouting. So Terra's gone, and it looks pretty decent for Ezraan now. All right, he managed to get the rocks up. Mew is revealed to be some kind of insane fire spin set with transform to trap things like stall wheezing. But Ezraan is actually Terra Ghost, so he's able to avoid that. Was this worth it? I'm not sure. Because now Terra on wheezing is gone. Some other cheese might be able to beat it later on. We'll see. But because you're Ghost, you can switch out when you're trapped if you didn't know. And also, if you didn't know, if you're Ditto, you actually don't get the neutralizing gas even though you turn into Wheezing, which is pretty interesting. Alright, and here we just see Glamor trolling with this Terra Ice Blast, can force a lot of things out. And now we see Hatterene in. Gets forced out though. Pex has Haze, so, you know, Hat's not a problem. It's all good. T-Spikes go up, which is also a big deal. It means Glamor has to come back to spin those off later. But it goes for the Terra Blast, and now it's probably going to go for the Mortal Spin in order to remove the T-Spike. So it does lose the Balloon, which might not matter. And it's also Corrosion, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed. This is a Giga C team. Stays in again, which I think is probably a bad play. You kind of need the Mortal Spin on Glamora. But I guess you can always prevent T-Spikes now with Hat. The Peck set is revealed to be no attacks, so Hat should be able to come in every single time it needs to. Alright, so yeah, you see the Gliscor doesn't get affected by gas. Mew is able to Pain Split back up, switch out into this Deoxys, which I don't know what it is. Looks like it's some Cosmic Power Weakness Policy nonsense. And now we are about to see the craziest hat set ever. It clicks Agility. Have you ever seen a Hatterene click Agility? Answer me that question. I haven't, personally. But he tries to knock it off, which I think might be his demise, honestly. I don't know if he could have done anything, though, to be honest. Like, you go Blissey, spam Calm Mind, maybe? Maybe if he did that much earlier, he could have had a chance. But we're about to see a 500 power stored power just go absolutely insane and knock out this Blissey. Okay, it's at +6 in 3 different stats. Stored power to 72. I don't know why he didn't Calm Mind again. I wonder if that actually could have made a difference, but I kind of doubt it. And now you're going to see everything drop to the strongest and the fastest Hatterene I've ever seen in my life. And then that's everything. And they lost a lot of points off that. They went from 1875 to 1859, so that sets them back quite a bit. And we'll move on to our next game. Unfortunately, we have Ezraan once again, because who doesn't like to see Stall get shamoned? And this C team in particular is pretty crazy. You're about to see some pretty nonsensical stuff coming out. So, the opposing team actually looks like Stall kind of on its own. Stall with the Tinkaton. Like, all these guys are pretty fat guys. No offense to anyone that is overweight. But you're about to see something absolutely insane. Swords dancing up, you're thinking, okay, well, Tinkaton is not beating a Cork Knight. Well, it's actually Terra Blast Electric, so yes, it kind of does. And if you look at the state of Mold Breaker versus the remaining members of Ezra's team, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Maybe try to play the 50-50 there and Terra, and like get the Terra on the, like predicting this guy to Gigaton, expecting Dondozo to Terra like Dragon or something, but this guy says, I don't care. I'm just going to send it. Goodbye, Dondozo, with the Mold Breaker destroying the Unaware ability. And Ezraan is losing even more points at the very high ladder. Alright, next up, we have another anti-stall game. And we have Future Caller once again because they are using the most insane teams. I think they have donated a lot of points using terrible, terrible teams like this. But they've also created some very entertaining games. So you know I had to feature my boy and Borbs. Shout out to Emilio. And this person said they are preparing for Pokemon ZA with their in-game team. This is Legend ZA meme team. But this was very obviously a snipe. You're about to see something pretty crazy. Houndoom clicks taunt. Ghost goes like, alright, I'm just gonna Earthquake you, I guess. Earthquake faster than Houndoom, which is never a good sign because it means counter is coming out. Now Hoopa's in. Hoopa easily takes the trade there. So it's like, okay, you know, this is not ideal, but it's recoverable. Embor in versus Hoopa somehow forces Hoopa out. I guess if it's 0 speed Hoopa, then max speed Embor is always a threat. Close combat into Flare Blitz knocks out the Clef. Dondozo does force it out though. It's all good. Meganium is revealed to be Rocky Helmet for some reason. Clicks knockoff, gets that Covert Cloak off of the Slowking. Cool. Now Feraligator's in. Doubles Embor on the Dozo. Because, you know, Feraligator is obviously going to be Swords Dancing or something like that. What's it going to do versus Dozo? But then you bring in something else that presumably also loses to Dondozo, and you're like, what's going on here? Well, fellas, it's actually a max special attack, presumably. Grassnot Oko's Dondozo and Borb's Oko Slowking. And now it's Feraligator versus Hoopa and Blissey, which it's easily gonna beat. And yeah, I mean, this was a pretty disgusting snipe. And Borbs is the absolute stall breaker. Never let anybody tell you otherwise. Shout out to M Borbs, the icon of this channel, perhaps. The final game is probably the least insane game, but still pretty insane. So Crying was at like 2140 at this point. Case, aka 979, was at like 2100. Case using a fairly standard looking team like a Hatterene, Bulky O. Crying using some insane dog bolts team with presumably a lot of choices. Like that's choice band Hoopa damage for sure. Great Tusk reveals leftovers. Sure. Goes for that Earthquake, which does quite a bit to Hat. That reveals AV Hat for sure, but Slowking is a pretty decent answer into it. Nice Lucky Para on the Chili. Goes for the Chili as Garchomp Swords dances. Raging Bull is revealed to be Scarf Weather Ball. So Tace is thinking like, I've won. How is Crying gonna deal with this Terra Ghost Garchomp? Well, have you ever heard of Double Scarf with the other Scarf being a Hisuian Arcanine? You probably haven't, and I don't blame you because this is probably the most insane core I've ever seen in my life. Scarf Raging Bolt with Weather Ball followed by Head Smash Arcanine. And now you see this game still looks decent for Taste because these hazards are really gonna go crazy. Arcanine gets sacked, RP, the Dog. Corv comes in because everybody knows Corviknight is a Goldango answer, but I think Crying just wanted to break the balloon for the Tusk. This Choice Band Hoopa is a Giga Threat, by the way, because it has no switch-ins at this point. I feel like taking that Steam was probably not best, but I mean, taking that Hyperspace was probably not best because Volcanion did look pretty decent into the rest of the team, but that's all good. So Taste obviously wants to keep the hazards up, but pressuring with this Iron Defense boost makes a lot of sense too. Goes for the press, does half the damage of Corviknight's HP. Crying decides to go Slowking. Taste predicts it with a nice crunch, but it reveals Colbur with defense EVs. So the Slowking is going to be able to pivot if it doesn't get parried, which unfortunately it does. Corviknight gets sacked on the nice press, expecting the Slowking to swap out. Slowking back in. We're going to see what it's going to try to do. Clicks Toxic on the Zamazenta. Okay. Body press, because of the defense drop, is able to knock out the Slowking. Now Hoopa's in to sack. I think because they're trying to set up a great Tusk Sweep. And a great Tusk Sweep at this point would be pretty insane, given that there's a Balloon Gold and a +3 Zamazenta. But a click substitute, which, you know, you don't see every day. A great Tusk click and substitute bulk up. It's able to live the press, and then it reveals Rock Slide. Just nonsense, by the way. Sub bulk up Terra Fairy Rock Slide. But if you look at the state of the game, it's looking primed to clean everything else up, which is what is going to happen. So that toxic setup on the Zamazenta was actually such a big deal. And low-key, I wonder if Taste didn't need to stay in versus Slowking. Like, I wonder if that was unnecessary. But, you know, either way, I think it was cooked. And Crying actually goes to 2171. And during our stream, So many people were asking, what happened to Crying? They were at number 1 with a major gap, the biggest gap we've ever seen in OLT. Well, Crying unfortunately flew too close to the sun, decided I like Pokemon so much that I'm going to queue up another game, even though I don't need to at all, because this was on the deadline day. Ended up losing a total of 450 points, sending them all the way to like not even close to qualification at all. And giving, yeah, I mean, people were asking what happened to Crying, and there isn't a real answer for what happened because this was some nonsense. But you know, I respect it. You love the game so much that you don't care about your qualification. You just want to play. No, it doesn't make sense at all. I'm not sure if I respect it honestly, but it's pretty interesting. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We will be doing more OLT content, covering a lot of highlighter content as well. So I will catch you very soon for the next video. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.